Hello everyone and welcome back to another Affinity Designer creative design trick. I'm your host, Elias Sarantopoulos. In this Affinity Designer tutorial, I'm going to walk you through how to create type with multiple strokes, step by step, including tips and tricks throughout to help you maximize your results and use similar techniques for your own projects. So inside Affinity Designer with a new document open, I have already created just the letter D using an extra bold font. But a font weight of just bold or black can also be considered depending on the font family you're using. So I'm just going to tap on the letter D, and inside the Color Studio, I'm going to just use a stroke instead of a fill. I'm just going to swipe up to the right or to the left. And now I have the stroke. Then inside the Stroke Studio, I'm just going to up the width a bit, like so. Okay, so again, let's go ahead and select the letter D, and then tap on the Advanced options inside the Stroke Studio, and look at the options. I'm referring to the cap, the join, and the align option. Okay, so let me go ahead and just zoom quite a bit here, and as you can see, for the cap, I'm using the butt cap, which is very okay. But for the join right now, I have the round join. In this case, I want to go to the third choice, which is the miter joint. So I'm just going to tap on that. And the miter joint basically is a stroke extending all the way out, ending in a sharp or flat corner. So as you can see here, the corner is pretty flat. I want this to have like a sharp corner. And that depends on the miter limit. Right now, the miter limit is set to 1 point something. In this case, you want to up this to 2 point or so, depending again on the font you're using. But it's safe to say after 2, it gets to the sharp corner. All right. So that's one thing. The second thing is, if you look at the Layer Studio here, that this basically is an editable text. Okay. Now we want to, in order to turn this to multiple strokes, we're going to have this text not editable. So up on the edit menu, first we're going to convert this to curves. So go ahead and tap on that. And then back on the edit menu, we're going to expand the stroke. Now, before I do that, also pay attention to the Stroke Studio. You can see the stroke would be set back to 0. So tap on the expand stroke, and here it is. The stroke is set to 0. So in this case, I'm going to tap on the Stroke Studio again, and I'm going to up the width to, let's say, 40 points. There you go. That's one thing. The second thing is, again, to change the join to back on the miter join. There we go. Again, just make sure that the miter limit is set to 2 or more. All right, because if you play it with this, you see we get the same effect. All right. And then the alignment here is set to center. So I'm going to align the stroke to the outside, which is the third choice. There you go. See that? And then what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the edit menu, and we're going to expand the stroke. Okay. Then I'm going to mark you select both. All right. And then I'm going to go up on the edit menu again, and I'm going to choose one of the Boolean operations, which is in the case, I'm going to use the divide Boolean operation, which splits object areas into separate objects. And we need separate objects now. So I'm going to tap on the divide Boolean operation, and here are all the objects, all the curves. And let's see, let me tap on the Color Studio. In this case, I'm going to target the fill color, and I'm going to swipe upwards to remove that. And then I'm left with all these curves here. But the thing is, we don't see it. If I tap away, you see you don't see it. It's there. Just marquee select with the move tool, select all of them. And inside the Stroke Studio, just go ahead and up this just a little bit. Okay. So what we're going to do now inside the Layer Studio, you want to look, because sometimes after using the divide Boolean operation, we have some leftover paths. In this case, I have a lot of duplicate paths, which I need to remove, but not all of them, of course. So I'm going to tap on this one, for example, remove that as well. Tap on that. I'm going to, let's see, remove that as well. But then I'm going to keep this one. You see, I'm going to keep that one because that will come handy a little later. And then let's see, I'm going to tap on that. I'm going to remove this one again. And I'm going to tap on one of these. I believe it's this one, yes. So I'm going to tap on that one. I want to remove this, but then I want to keep this guy. See that? This curve. So basically, I'm going to keep those 4 curves to create the effect that I want to create, and then use this extra 2 that I have toggled off their visibility to create some extra strokes a bit later. So for this next step, I'm going to actually create some extra paths, which eventually I'm going to combine all of them together to create the effect that I want to create. So for that, I'm going to, first of all, tap the zoom in here and then use the pen tool. And I'm going to tap once here and once here. And then I'm going to switch to the node tool. And first of all, let's go ahead and tap on that and just see that if I have a round corner, in this case I do. I'm also going to tap on the Stroke Studio, and you want to make sure that you're using a round cap, all right, which I do, as I mentioned before. This is important so you don't have anything extending out. Okay, so that's one thing. Let me tap on the pen tool again, one here and one there, and then I'm going to switch again on the node tool. That looks pretty good, right? And what else can we do? Well, I'm going to zoom in here, tap on the pen tool, create another connector here, and another one here. There you go, that looks great. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap with the node tool on this curve here, and I'm looking at this node right here. See that? So looking at this node, I'm going to tap on the pen tool, and I'm going to tap once, then tap here, right? Now, of course, I definitely need to tap the zoom in and select this node with the node tool and just kind of move it there, okay? Then I'll do the same. I'm going to tap again on the curve till I find the node, which I did. So I'm going to tap on the pen tool, tap on that, and then tap here. And now with the node tool, eventually these will align to each other. You will see what I mean. There we go, you see? I'm referring about those two, this one and this one. Those two now, the end nodes align to each other. Okay, so what else can we do? Let's look at the node tool again. And then we have this end, and I will do the same thing on that end. So I'm going to tap on the pen tool, tap on that, tap on that. Let's look. That looks great. Tap on the node tool again, find the node. Here's the node. And then just tap here. And then of course with the node tool, I'm going to align those two end nodes. There we go. Like so. So this next step involves the selection of all these curves, add them together, and then separate them back again. So we have separate areas that we're going to color. So for that, I'm going to use the Move tool, and I'm going to marquee select all of these curves, of course, except the last two curves that I have turned the visibility off, because again, we're going to use this a little later. And the first thing I'm going to do inside the Edit menu, we're going to expand all of the curves strokes. We do have a small stroke here, so go ahead and tap on the Expand stroke. And as you can see, the stroke is set to 0. Tap again on the Edit menu, and this time we're going to use another Boolean operation. We're going to use the Add Boolean operation, which creates a new object from the sum of all selected objects. And as you can see, we have a lot of selected objects, right? So let's go ahead and tap on the add Boolean operation. And the next step is to go back to the edit menu and then tap again on the divide Boolean operation. Tap on that. And as you can see, we have all these separate objects that we can use to color them. In this case, go ahead and tap on the Color Studio and then just swipe to the right to use just the stroke. The stroke inside the Stroke Studio is set to 0.5. I'm just going to up this just a bit so I can see what I'm doing. All right. So this is great. This is where exactly what I wanted to be here. All right. So the next step basically is to target those separate areas and start coloring. All right, so let's go ahead and target those areas. So I'm going to tap on the Layer Studio here. And with the Move tool, I'm just going to target the separate areas. And inside the Color Studio, I'm going to use my own swatches here that I've just created. And of course, feel free to use your own colors. So let's say I'm going to use, let's see, this color and this one here. I'm going to target that one, that curve. Target this curve up here. This one here. This is going to be a yellow. This is going to be a yellow here. This can be a red perhaps. There we go. I do have a big one here. I know this is the one. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to marquee select everything. And inside the Stroke Studio, I'm going to up the width a bit. Okay, that seems to be okay. But then again, inside the Color Studio, I'm going to use another stroke color. Perhaps I can use just white, right? For now, this is okay, but I need a background color. So I'm going to marquee select everything. And temporarily, I'm just going to group everything inside the Edit menu. So I'm going to group everything. And you can see this inside the Layer Studio. So then I'm going to tap on the plus icon to create a new vector layer. I'm going to tap and drag this, bring it under the letter D group. Let's change the layer 1 instead of layer 1. Let's rename this to BG for background, for example. And for that, I'm going to tap on the rectangle tool and just going to tap and drag to create one rectangle. There we go. And just going to tap on that and make sure that I have a different color. No need for stroke. Or perhaps I can use this color. Okay, so it all depends what you want. All right, so let's say this is okay. I'm going to lock this layer. And then again, I'm going to focus on this group, which I'm going to ungroup this again. So inside the Edit menu, go ahead and use Ungroup. So now again, we can focus on these different areas. Okay, so far so good. We're ready now to use the other two curves that we had toggled off their visibility. So let us go ahead and work on the two curves that we had set the visibility of. And I'm referring to these last two curves. I'm just going to activate them, tap on the first one, then swipe to the right on the second one to select both, and then tap and hold and bring them up on the layer stack like so. Okay, so let's see, I'm going to focus one at a time. And I believe this one is the first one. Okay, so for that, I'm going to up the width a bit. There we go. That seems to be okay. That's one thing. And actually, I'm going to change the color to, I don't know, to white, right? And then I'm going to go inside the Edit menu and then expand that stroke. Great. Now let's go ahead and create another stroke. I'm going to up the width a bit, but then I need to change the color this way. You see that? And then let's tap to zoom in. Again, we're going to go inside the Stroke Studio and we're going to use a matte joint. There we go. Okay. And then it depends what you're doing. The alignment might be, right now the alignment's on the center. You might have to go to the outside, and either or can work for me. I think I'm going to go to align the stroke on the outside. And here, just I'm going to bring this down a little bit. I think it's a little bit too much. So I'm just going to tap from here. You see those? Tap 3 fingers on the canvas. Just bring this in just a bit. There we go. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is this one. See that? That's a very similar process. So let's go ahead and do that. Quickly here, let's up the stroke width. Let's give it a color of white. Go inside the edit menu, expand the stroke, back on the stroke studio, increase that a little bit. Change this to black. There we go. But then I have to go inside the stroke studio and change the alignment from center to outside. There you go. Also, we're going to change the joint to mighty join. There we go. And I believe the stroke width is a little bit too much. And I can size this down a bit. So I'm going to tap a 3-finger modifier on the canvas. Just to bring this in just a bit. And I like what I see. Now, if you notice here, we do have some extras. What is this one? Okay, but this might come handy. I'm not so sure. I'm going to leave it on right now. So I think I have one more here. You see that? So this actually can have another color. I'm not sure yet, but we still have a little bit to go to put some textures inside some of these segments. All right, so let's go ahead and place a couple of textures inside in specific curves. I believe this is the first curve and this is the second curve where I'm going to place the texture. Now, here's the trick. If you don't target the specific curve inside the Layer Studio, once you import the photo or the texture, whatever you import, it will go up on the very top on the layer stack. But when you target the curve, once you import the photo, then the layer is going to be right on top of the curve. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to tap on the document menu and then tap on the place image. And I'm going to import a photo from my own library. So tap on that. So now I'm just going to drag to place the image. There you go. All right. In this case, first of all, I'm going to rotate this a little bit. So I'm going to drag this from here, rotate this from here. I'm going to tap 1-finger modifier to do that. And then I believe I need to size this up. So I'm going to start sizing up, but I'm going to tap 2-finger modifier on the canvas to do so. All right, great. Now let's go ahead and clip this inside the curve. And as you can see, what I mentioned before, the texture, as we placed it, it was right on top of the curve just because we had targeted the curve before. So in this case now, tap and hold and clip this inside. There we go. I will do the same for the other curve, which is this one. So I'm going to target this. Back on the document menu, tap on the place image. I'm going to bring the same photo from the library. I'm just going to tap and drag this again. Rotate it. Okay. And then let's go ahead and clip this inside the photo. So tap and hold and just bring it in the middle of it. Like so. Okay. Things are looking pretty good. Now, as I mentioned before, we do have some leftovers. Here's one. This sits on the outside. So what can you do here? Well, first of all, let's go inside the swatches here and perhaps use a different color and then up the width just a little bit. See that? Well, if you like that, you keep it. That's one thing I can do. Another one, I have another leftover. It's this one here. Let's go ahead and change again. Let me perhaps change to this color. I don't really know. I'm just playing around to see what works for me. And maybe I can change this to another color. Perhaps this red color or the yellow color, whatever. Things like this. So basically, all I'm doing is inside the Layer Studio to play around with these curves. And you know what? If you don't need them, just remove them from the Layer Studio. And here's an idea how to use multiple strokes to create such an effect inside Affinity Designer, something that you can use for your own projects. Thank you everyone for spending time with me. Let me know if you have any questions below the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and share the knowledge.